We all applaud the amazing work of William Wilberforce, Thomas Clarkson in stopping the slave trade back in the 1800s, but has it really stopped? I mean, how much of a problem is slavery today? It's still going on. So joining me from Lethbridge to talk about this today is Executive Director of Not4Sale, Joy-Lynn Stickel. So good to have you with us, Joy-Lynn.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, always important to talk about this stuff. I mean, first of all, tell us a bit more about your organization, Not4Sale. That started right here in Lethbridge, I believe. And what are you trying to accomplish, and what motivated you to get this started?
Yeah, so long story short, we started because I had gone to a conference and heard about human trafficking for the first time and sex slavery, and that kids were involved, and I had never heard about that before. So that was in 2009, and it grabbed my heart, and I came home to my husband and said, I don't know what we can do. I don't know what difference we can make, but we have to. We have to
Hmm.
step out. Since then, we started a home in Cambodia and ran that for 3 years with another organization. And that home had 23 women and girls go through it. And we have amazing stories from that of women finding freedom and finding hope again, and children being safe. And yeah, and then since then, we moved to our home to Mexico. It took us 8 years to get licensing with the government. It was just back and forth, a bunch of different factors with that, but we were able to open that home last year. At the beginning of the year, we opened it and it was fantastic. So we've been running our home in Mexico for the last year since January 2004. We've had 13 girls in that home. We currently have six, and one of them has a baby. Yeah, and then we also have a home in Kenya that kind of happened organically. We have another ministry there that helps girls who can't go to school because they're pregnant, but a little bit different than actual human trafficking. So this one, the police knew that this woman was caught in human trafficking. She was being trafficked by her aunt. She was pregnant because of that, and had a baby that was very, very under or malnutrition. And yeah, and so the police worked with us there, and now we have a home in Kenya helping those people out.
Wow, that's amazing. I look at that and I go like, yeah, what can we do? Well, you did something. You're not an expert in, these areas, but you just said, hey, let's do something. And, you get some people around you who are more, experts in these areas, and look what happens. So that's, yeah, good on you guys, man. Can you share a little bit about, I think you call them the Hope Totes. You apparently distribute to unhoused girls and women in, I guess it would be both Mexico and Kenya, or is it just Mexico?
Those are local, so we distribute those in Lethbridge here. We
Okay.
work with our ministry, My City Care, which I'm sure
Yeah.
about. So
Hmm.
partnered with My City Care, we help the women, and there's not as many young girls who are unhoused in Lethbridge,
Yeah.
but yeah. So these are hygiene kits that serve a practical need, but also open the door for relationships so that these women can just kind of step out and toward safety and stability on their own and know that they have a place to come to with our ministries there. So
Yeah.
yeah, over the lifetime of Hope Totes, we've distributed over 8,000 of
Oh,
them
wow.
around locally.
Nice. Okay. And I understand that, I mean, you're hoping to open some safe houses in Canada as well?
Yeah, yeah, that is a dream for sure. Even coming from Cambodia to Mexico and learning the different governments, Canada is a whole new ball game that we're learning as well. So yeah, we're stepping out and making connections. There's so many good organizations in Canada, um, but it's breaking the mold to open a home for underage
That's well,
victims.
that's exciting. I'm sure there's viewers who'd want to be part of that, and of course, this all takes money. So you have a fundraising gala coming up, I believe, May 23rd.
We do, yeah, yeah. This is our fifth annual. We we say annual loosely because we stopped kind of around COVID, but this is our fifth gala, and we take it and we use it to spread awareness, help people understand what's happening and how they can help. So it's May 23rd at the Parallel Church in Lethbridge, and you can follow us to kind of keep up to date with the details of that.
Okay, excellent. Now, for viewers who maybe don't know how widespread this is, the child, sex trade, human trafficking. It's not just children, of course. It's older women as well. And I mean, what kind of numbers are we're talking about in Canada, and then how many globally?
Yeah, so it's always tricky to find numbers, even when you
Yeah.
go and look at Statistics Canada and all that. But it is estimated that there are 50 million people in human trafficking globally, and 2 million in children are trafficked every year. And so it's worldwide. It's all over the place. It's more visual in different, like when we were in Thailand and Cambodia, you can see it on the streets. In Mexico, and but a lot of the stuff in Canada, they say within a block there is one person within a block of you where you live, there's one person that's
Oy.
trafficked.
Yeah, we don't think
Um,
of it here in Canada, but it is actually happening. And
yeah,
I know it's not even necessarily, I'm told, always sexual in nature. Of course, that's the worst though. But sometimes apparently, underage kids are used for labor. Working in factories, sometimes not getting paid or getting paid very little, just enough food to kind of get by. I mean, that's not good either.
yeah, no, you see that globally for sure. The factory side of things, the kids sitting on the street begging. But in Canada, one of our team leads, she was trafficked in Canada when she was 4, and she was um, sexually trafficked, but also she was taught how to break into cars. She was a drug mule for them. So that kind of labor trafficking happens here, happens with kids, and yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah. Now, in other countries, whether it's Mexico or Kenya, something like that. So, what actually happens? I mean, do the kids literally get kidnapped, or is it? I've heard of some cases where the parents are actually really, really poor, and I think at times maybe misled completely by somebody who's saying, "Hey, your kids are going to be way better off. We're going to get them a better life." They promise that, but of course, they end up simply being trafficked.
Yeah, so it's you hear different stories, different scenarios all over the place. In Cambodia, we saw that it was more of a cultural thing where this is when you turn 12, this is how you help support the family. And so it's more um, welcomed, legitimized there. We've seen where, yeah, where the parents are addicted to drugs and they use their children to help with financing that. And yeah, so there's a lot of that. There's a lot of it, especially in America and North America, is online, and so they're lured online. They through games and through different social websites and such. Yeah, and so a lot of what we want to do is raise awareness and teach families and teach parents and teach kids. We're going into schools teaching kids what to watch for. And when this person says she's a or he is a friend that's your age, it could be a 40-year-old guy or it could be a
Hmm.
yeah, and so there's a whole bunch of different ways. The movies that you see with the white van pulling up and
Hmm.
luring kids with candies isn't as prevalent for sure from what we see. But yeah, like you said, the promise of a better life, you're sending your child to a different country because you can't support them, and this person said they can, and yeah, there's a whole bunch of different scenarios.
Okay. And what age range are we talking about it? And is it mainly girls, or but I'm assuming there's some boys that are trafficked as well, right?
Absolutely. The age ranges from we've heard stories of newly born babies being abused, and up to however old, right? Um, our girls in our home are more teenagers, and so they're to uh, we want to have another home. We want to have a bunch of homes that help support different groups of people. But my heart is as young as we can help them. That's how we want to do it. But yeah, we had one girl who was 6 years old in Cambodia who was in our home. Her story was that her grandma trafficked her, and then she I don't know if the little girl knew that it was her grandma because she somehow escaped, got back to grandma, and grandma sold her, and that happened twice, 3
Hmm.
times, twice again.
Wow,
So
that is just
yeah,
heartbreaking. So I mean, these kids basically have been, seriously abused for years. So that's going to have a severe impact. I mean, not just on their physical bodies, but I'm thinking, their emotional, mental, and spiritual health, right? So, what do you do to bring restoration to these kids?
the biggest thing is to have a home that they have a safe family. And obviously, we are a faith-based group, so that we know that Jesus is the hope for these girls. But in Mexico, we have psychologists, we have doctors, we have
Okay.
house that are part of their network there, that they are able to have access to counselors and different things. And we know that it's not going to be an overnight thing that, okay, you're rescued, you're safe here, you're
Right.
going to be right. There's lots of trauma that goes through, and you see it differently with different girls. One of our girls that we rescued, she was unvocal for months. She wasn't able to talk. She didn't know how to use the washroom. She didn't know how to use utensils. And yeah, and so it took it took a while to kind of just surround her, let her know she's safe, just continue to be constant and stable for her, and she's doing beautifully, and she's still in our
Mm,
home.
wow. And is this like a partnership with local churches then, like in Mexico, or like who actually gets the hands on? I mean, of course, there's some probably some government people, like you say, psychologists and so forth, and doctors.
Yeah. Yeah, so the way our home works in Mexico is Not4Sale has their own home. We hire local ladies who live in the home around the clock. There's schedules and different things. Um, so that's our home. But the way that the kids are, they come to us is through child and family services. So we don't actually go out at the moment and rescue. It's from
Yeah,
situations.
that's a whole other ball game that you've got to have some unique skills and frankly be willing to risk your life doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And do the kids learn some schools or skills, pardon me? Like, I mean, they're going to need to be earning a living at some point as well, right? Or maybe they, I don't know if they go into the adoption system. I'm not sure what happens.
Yeah, so our when we were in Mexico, or sorry, when we were in Cambodia, we had a trade that the women and girls learned. They actually sewed all the costumes for the Australian ballet. So they had a contract with that. And then we've seen other ones that they open up a cafe or a barber shop or a bakery, or that's our heart. We would love to do that. Our girls are younger now and all going to school. Um, so that's one of the dream homes or dream projects that we have in Mexico, is to have a place where, yeah, these girls can learn a trade and have a place that when they're 18, they don't have to feel like they have to be out of our family.
Yeah, okay. How long does it take? I mean, I'm assuming it probably varies from child to child, person to person, to recover though. And do they, fully recover? You have stories of, kids, now they're becoming adults and they're fully integrated back into society?
Yeah. So one of our girls in Mex or in so one of our girls in Cambodia came through the home and ended up marrying a pastor, as a pastor's wife over there, and it's just using her experience to help others. So we've seen that for sure, and like you said, it does vary for sure, uh, for girl and different situations and all that. So it's it's hard to say, but we know that the hope is Jesus. We know that if we can surround them with love and safety, then that's a way better chance of actually healing the trauma.
What can viewers do to help stop human trafficking? Again, most of us aren't going to get out there, and physically rescue kids, dangerous thing, right? But what are our options?
So locally in Alberta, we have different locations that you can hands-on help. We have this gala coming up. We have a contract with uh, Canada or with Alberta road systems that we clean up clean up the ditches once a year and different things. We do markets that we need volunteers. So we need people who have a heart for this and have time that they can volunteer. Definitely donating is a huge part. We can't do this without our donors. And it takes quite a bit to run a home in Mexico and to give these girls what they need for safety.
And you want to expand here in Canada as well. So you need some more volunteers that are going to, again, do some markets, that sort of thing, to raise funds. I know you sell some merchandise, that sort of thing. And of course, donations. It needs to be, tax deductible as well. And May 23rd, you have a fundraiser happening at Parallel Church, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And so we have also, you can be an advocate, just raising funds and awareness. You can bring us ideas or connections, business connections, school connections, those kind of, yeah. So just using your sphere of influence, using your world to help us rescue these.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing and for what you're doing today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having
Wow.
me.
That's good stuff, isn't it, what they're doing? If you want to be part of it, check it out, Not4Sale, all right, .ca. Joy-Lynn Stickel, the Executive Director of Not4Sale.